Imagine you could feel invincible for exactly 12 minutes. No fear, no exhaustion, no self-doubt. Just pure electric confidence flooding every inch of your body. Your heart hammers like a war drum. Your thoughts race at a speed you've never experienced before. You feel like you could solve every problem in the world, run a marathon, start a business, and still have energy left over. Now imagine that feeling is a trap, and the door locks the moment you walk through it. This is methamphetamine, and what it does to the human body is one of the most brutal, systematic, and terrifying stories in all of modern medicine. Let's start from the very beginning, the first hit. The second meth enters the body, whether smoked, snorted, or injected. It floods the brain with an almost incomprehensible surge of dopamine. Under normal circumstances, everyday pleasures like food, laughter, or physical touch release somewhere between 100 and 200 units of dopamine. Meth releases over 1,000 all at once. Like someone grabbed the volume dial on your brain's reward system and cranked it to a level it was never designed to reach. The result is euphoria so intense that almost nothing in normal human experience comes close. Users describe it as a full-body warmth that starts in the chest and radiates outward, a sensation of absolute certainty that everything is going to be perfect. But here's the thing, your brain doesn't tell you in that first moment. It is already beginning to break. Dopamine doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It is stored, released, and then recycled back into the cells that produced it. Meth doesn't just trigger the release. It hijacks the entire recycling system. It forces your neurons to dump every reserve they have, then blocks the cleanup crew from putting any of it back. The dopamine just sits there, flooding the synapses, screaming at full volume, until the drug wears off. And when it does wear off, there is almost nothing left. This is what researchers call a dopamine crash. And it is so severe, so deeply physical, that the world without meth stops feeling merely normal. It starts feeling unbearable. Colors seem less vivid. Food tastes like cardboard. Sleep offers no rest. Even the people you love most begin to feel like background noise. Your brain has just been shown a version of pleasure it was never designed to sustain, and now it wants nothing else. This is the hook. This is why people who swear they will only try it once often find themselves using again within days. Not because they are weak, but because what meth does to the reward system is so overwhelming that the chemistry of desire itself gets rewritten. But the brain is only where the story begins. While all of this is happening inside your skull, the rest of your body is being hit by a full-scale storm. Meth belongs to a class of drugs called stimulants, which means one of its primary effects is flooding your system with adrenaline, the same chemical your body releases when it thinks you are in immediate danger. Your heart rate spikes, often to 150 beats per minute or more. Your blood pressure surges, your blood vessels constrict, your pupils dilate, your body temperature begins to rise. This is your ancient fight-or-flight response being artificially hijacked and held at maximum intensity for hours. Chronic meth use is now one of the leading causes of a condition called cardiomyopathy, a weakening of the heart muscle itself. The organ that is supposed to pump blood through your entire body for a lifetime begins to stretch, to thin, to lose its rhythm. Irregular heartbeats become common. Some are merely uncomfortable. Others are fatal without warning. Meth-related heart attacks and strokes are not rare edge cases. They happen to people in their 20s, to people who consider themselves healthy. They happen the first time, or the 15th, with no predictable pattern. Because when you force a muscle to operate at emergency capacity for hours at a time, over weeks and months and years, something eventually breaks. And the damage doesn't stop at the heart. Let's talk about the brain, because what happens there over time is something that researchers are still struggling to fully map, and what they have found is deeply unsettling. Long-term meth use physically alters the structure of the human brain, not metaphorically, not as a figure of speech. The actual gray matter, the neurons, the white matter tracts, the prefrontal cortex, changes shape and shrinks. Brain imaging studies comparing heavy meth users to non-users show consistent and striking differences. The prefrontal cortex shows significant reduction. The areas responsible for memory, emotional regulation, and self-awareness follow similar patterns of deterioration. What this means in practice is that the drug systematically destroys the very parts of the brain a person would need to decide to stop using it. It erodes willpower at its neurological root. It impairs the ability to feel consequences before they happen, to remember what life felt like before, to truly imagine a future worth fighting for. The brain's dopamine system doesn't just crash after each use. With sustained exposure, it starts to atrophy. The receptor's dopamine binds to begin to disappear, as if the brain is trying to protect itself from the endless overstimulation by reducing the number of doors the drug can knock on. The result is that users need more meth to feel the same effect, and need meth just to feel anything resembling normal. This is called tolerance, and in the world of methamphetamine, it escalates faster than almost any other substance known to medicine. Now let's go somewhere most people don't expect when they think about a drug that hijacks your pleasure centers: the skin. One of the most visible signs of prolonged meth use is what happens on the outside of the body. The skin of long-term users often develops a distinctive, devastating appearance that researchers and clinicians can identify almost immediately. First, there is extreme weight loss. Meth is a powerful appetite suppressant. Users often go days without eating, not because they forget, but because the drug makes hunger feel irrelevant. The body begins consuming its own muscle tissue for fuel. Fat deposits disappear. The face becomes gaunt, the cheeks hollow. The eyes sink into the skull. Then there are the sores. Meth causes a crawling sensation under the skin, a hallucination so vivid and physically real that users become convinced there are insects, parasites, or foreign objects beneath the surface. They scratch, compulsively, desperately, over and over, until open wounds form that have no chance to heal because the scratching never stops. These are known as meth mites, or formication, and the resulting sores can cover the arms, face, and legs. Meth also severely impairs the immune system's ability to heal wounds. The same vasoconstriction that damages the heart reduces blood flow to the skin, starving cells of oxygen and nutrients. Small sores become large sores. Large sores become infections. And then there are the teeth. Meth mouth is one of the most documented and photographically striking consequences of the drug, and it happens with a speed that startles even seasoned medical professionals. The mechanism is not a single cause, but a catastrophic convergence of several. Meth causes extreme dry mouth by reducing saliva production. Saliva is not just water. It is the mouth's primary defense against acid, bacteria, and decay. Without it, teeth are essentially left unprotected around the clock. At the same time, meth causes users to grind and clench their teeth with enormous force, often without realizing it. The drug also triggers intense cravings for sugar, particularly sweet, carbonated drinks, that further accelerate enamel erosion. Within months, teeth that were previously healthy begin to crack, blacken, and disintegrate, not from the outside in, but from multiple directions simultaneously. It is not uncommon for a user who has been on meth for less than a year to require full dental extraction, not purely because of hygiene choices, but because the chemistry of the drug makes the destruction almost unavoidable. By now, you might be asking yourself how any of this happens, how people continue when the consequences are so visible, so severe, so rapid. And the answer requires understanding one more thing about what meth does to the brain. It fundamentally alters perception of the future. One of the most insidious effects of sustained meth use is that it impairs the ability to vividly imagine the future. The prefrontal cortex damage shows up as a reduced capacity for something psychologists call delay discounting, the ability to weigh short-term gratification against long-term consequences. In plain terms, meth makes the future feel unreal and the present feel all-consuming. The hit in front of you feels more real than the doctor's warning from last week, more real than the photograph of your face from 2 years ago, more real than the family members watching from a distance, hoping you'll find your way back. This is not a moral failing. It is a measurable neurological condition, and it is one of the reasons why recovery from meth is considered one of the most difficult challenges in addiction medicine. Recovery is real. People do it. Brain scans of recovering users show measurable improvement in dopamine receptor density after sustained abstinence, often beginning around 14 months of sobriety. Cognitive function can partially return. Emotional regulation improves. The brain, in its extraordinary resilience, begins to rebuild. But the road back is long. Early recovery is made brutally difficult by anhedonia, the clinical inability to feel pleasure. When someone stops using meth after sustained dependence, their dopamine system is so depleted that ordinary life offers almost no reward signal. Food tastes like nothing. Laughter feels forced. Accomplishment feels hollow. This can last for months, and it is one of the primary reasons relapse rates remain high, even among people who desperately want to stop. The body craves what the drug promised. And the drug promised the one thing human beings want more than almost anything else: to feel truly, completely alive. The tragedy of methamphetamine is not simply that it destroys the body, though it does, systematically, rapidly, and without mercy. The deepest tragedy is that it offers something real. The first rush is not a lie. The confidence, the energy, the euphoria, those feelings happen. They are chemically genuine. What is not disclosed in that first moment is the cost. What is not visible is the ledger that opens the second the drug enters the system and never closes. Every unit of stolen pleasure creates a debt that the body will eventually be forced to repay, with interest. The heart weakens, the brain shrinks, the skin deteriorates, the teeth collapse. The ability to feel anything at all begins to fade. And the only thing that makes any of it temporarily better is the one thing making all of it worse. This is what methamphetamine does to the human body. Not in rare cases, not in dramatic worst-case scenarios, but in the normal documented progression of a drug that was designed, either by accident or by chemistry, to be almost impossible to walk away from once you've walked in. The body is an extraordinary machine. It can endure enormous punishment and still fight to survive, but it cannot fight forever. Understanding this is not just knowledge, it is armor, because the most powerful protection against the trap has always been knowing exactly how the door locks.